US President Joe Biden has promised Israel ironclad support amid fears Tehran could retaliate for an attack that killed senior Iranians in Damascus 10 days ago. The US warning says it could be on Israeli soil and that the attack could come soon. Have a listen to Joe Biden.
We also want to address the Iranian threat to launch they're threatening to launch a significant attack on Israel. As I told Prime Minister Netanyahu, our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad. Let me say it again, ironclad.
Well, Joe Biden made those comments as Iran's leader said the Israeli strike, which hit the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria, was the equivalent to an attack on Iran itself. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, alluded to those Iranian threats today during a visit to an Air Force base in the south of Israel.
We are in challenging times. We're in the middle of a war in Gaza which continues in full force. At the same time, we continue our non-stop efforts to return our hostages, but we're also preparing for scenarios of challenges from other arenas. We established a simple principle. Whoever hurts us, we hurt him. We are preparing to meet the security needs of the State of Israel, both in defense and in attack. I and the people of Israel trust you, and may we all have great success.
For more on this, our foreign affairs commentator Doug Herbert is with me. And Doug, look, tensions have been running high in the region for a long time now, but even more so at this moment.
Yeah, look, tensions have been on a knife edge in this region, right, since October 7th. You could argue even before. Now they've ratcheted up to a new notch, a new escalation. Look, you had Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, just saying in the past 24 hours, basically, that an attack on an Iranian consulate in Damascus is equivalent to an attack on Iran itself. It's a diplomatic compound, so it equals attacking Iran. He says the evil regime must be punished, and it will be punished. Those are the words of Ayatollah Khamenei, coming on the heels of Joe Biden, as you reported, basically warning of what he called the possibility of a significant, the threats of a significant attack in the region. Meanwhile, you have Russia issuing an advisory today warning its citizens not to travel unless absolutely necessary to the Mideast region right now, especially Israel, especially Lebanon, especially the Palestinian territories, and the Israeli army on high alert, as are a lot of the U.S. interests and embassies in the region. Israeli embassies have been essentially almost singled out. You had Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, saying that the Israeli army has been preparing and has completed what he calls preparations for any number of multiple possible scenarios. Obviously, chief among those scenarios, or perhaps the biggest perceived threat, would be a direct attack in some form on Israel from Iranian soil. It's not to say that's the form in which it's going to come and how soon it's going to come, but that's the biggest threat. They're preparing for a lot of scenarios. I will quote that that on a top advisor to Khamenei, after Khamenei's remarks, also said that Israeli and the embassies of the Zionist regime, he didn't say Israel, they call it the Zionist regime, are saying that they are no longer safe. And Iran's official news agency also showed an infographic in one of its reports displaying 9 types of Iranian missiles that it says are capable of reaching and striking Israel. So that gives a sense of the mood, the climactic mood right now in Iran. It gives also a sense of just how girded people are right now, high alert in Israel.
Yeah, a really serious story indeed. Doug, something else we're watching coming out of the region is Israel claiming responsibility for this strike in Gaza yesterday that killed the sons of the leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh. Tell us a bit about that and whether you think now that will make the job of the negotiators in Cairo who are trying to find a ceasefire deal more difficult.
It may delay the deal. It's not going to be a deal breaker. And I say that because, first of all, Israel claims that it struck this convoy, saying that his sons were active members of Hamas's military units, that they were on the way to carrying out a planned terrorist activity, something that Hamas vehemently denies. And the fact that they had their children in the car with them, perhaps, some say, would argue in Hamas's favor that they were not imminently on the way to carry out a terror attack. You don't bring your children along. But that aside, no matter however you want to interpret that right now. The Hamas leader himself, Haniyeh, has said explicitly that this attack, if Israel thinks that this attack is going to somehow influence Hamas's negotiating stance, i.e. force Hamas to drop its demands in the ongoing negotiations right now, Israel is deluded. He says our group's demands aren't going to change, and just to reiterate what those are, it's the withdrawal of Israeli troops, it's the return of Palestinians who are displaced from their homes. It is a permanent, what they call a definitive ceasefire, and it is a reasonable, sound exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners in jails. Hamas is basically digging in its heels, saying this isn't changing our stance one iota. It might slow things down. It might, in the short term, also boost Haniyeh's popularity at home, even though there is a segment of Palestinians who are said to resent the fact that a lot of Hamas's top political leaders are living a life of luxury abroad in places like Qatar, while the Palestinian civilian population is suffering. But he has cast this as saying, saying that his children basically casting them as martyrs for the cause. They stayed with the Palestinian people. They were in Gaza, and they paid a very heavy price. But no, as far as the negotiations are concerned, they have a logic all their own. And I will just add this one last thing. Hamas has said that it does not have a list of 40 hostages, perhaps, which is one of the elements of the deal, to release right now, at least in that first stage, at least under the conditions of the negotiations. It's going to be hard to come up with that initial batch of 40 hostages. And that's according to both a Hamas official anonymously and an Israeli official anonymously in the Western press.